There is a ritual in almost every workplace worldwide. Around 10 a.m., the work stops. Someone stands up, walks to the break room, boils the kettle, and asks the room a simple question. Does anyone want a cup of tea or coffee? It is a gesture of kindness. It builds camaraderie. It is the fuel that keeps the office running. You never suspect that the liquid in the cup handed to you by your quiet, helpful colleague might be laced with a heavy metal designed to kill you slowly and painfully. In 1971, at a factory in England, a mysterious illness began to sweep through the workforce. People were collapsing in the hallways. Men were losing their hair. They called it the Bovingdon bug. They thought it was a virus, but it wasn't a virus. It was the new guy in the storeroom. A man who had a secret history that his employers had failed to check. A man who kept a diary not of his work tasks, but of the precise milligram doses of poison he was feeding his coworkers every single day. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy war stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. The year was 1971. The location was Bovingdon, Hertfordshire, at a company called John Hadlin Laboratories. It was a manufacturing facility that made photographic equipment. It was a standard, boring industrial environment, the kind of place where people punched the clock, did their job, and went home to their families. The workforce was tight-knit. They were ordinary people. The biggest drama usually revolved around who was winning the football pool or the weather. In May of that year, the company hired a new storeman. His name was Graham Young. Graham was 23 years old. He was smart, articulate, and presented himself well. He wore a suit to his interview. He seemed overqualified for the job of moving boxes and managing inventory, but he told the management he just needed a fresh start. He was quiet, a bit of a loner, but generally polite. However, there was one thing about Graham that his co-workers loved. He was incredibly generous with the tea runs. He was always the first to offer to make the rounds. He would go to the canteen, balance a tray of mugs, and distribute them to his colleagues with a smile. Shortly after Graham started, something strange began to happen at the factory. It started with a foreman named Bob Eagle. Bob began to complain of severe stomach cramps. Then came the diarrhea. Then the numbness in his fingers. He dismissed it as a stomach bug. But then other people started getting sick too. Ron Hewitt, another employee, developed similar symptoms: sharp pains in the gut, burning sensations in the throat. The factory doctors were baffled. They assumed a virus was tearing through the staff. They dubbed it the Bovingdon bug. It became a running joke in the office. Watch out, don't catch the bug. But the bug was vicious. Bob Eagle's condition deteriorated rapidly. He was hospitalized in agony. His limbs became paralyzed. He eventually died in July 1971. The doctors listed the cause of death as pneumonia, a complication from a rare form of polyneuritis. They had no reason to suspect foul play. It was just a tragedy. At the factory, the mood was somber. But life went on, and Graham Young kept making the tea. In the months following Bob's death, the sickness didn't stop. It got worse. Another colleague, Fred Biggs, a healthy 60-year-old, began to suffer. Then another. Then another. In total, nearly 70 employees at the small factory experienced symptoms of nausea and severe pain. But there were strange patterns. When Graham Young was away, people got better. When he came back, they got sick again. One colleague, Diana Smart, noticed something odd. She complained that the tea Graham made tasted metallic and bitter. She stopped drinking it. Her symptoms vanished. Graham, meanwhile, was acting peculiar. He wasn't just a passive observer of the illness, he was fascinated by it. He would ask his sick colleagues detailed questions about their symptoms. Does it burn here? Do your feet feel numb? He seemed almost too knowledgeable. During a meeting where the company doctor addressed the staff to calm their fears about the bug, Graham stood up. He started challenging the doctor. He asked, "Why haven't you tested for heavy metal poisoning? Why haven't you tested for thallium?" The room went silent. Why would a storeman who moves boxes know about thallium? Thallium is a tasteless, odorless heavy metal. In the past, it was used as rat poison. It is incredibly toxic to humans. It attacks the nervous system, causes hair loss, and leads to a slow, agonizing death. Graham Young knew about thallium because Graham Young was a monster. His employers had failed to do a background check. If they had, they would have found a file that was stamped "Do Not Release." Graham Young wasn't just a 23-year-old looking for a fresh start. He was a convicted murderer. At the age of 14, he had poisoned his own family. He had fed antimony and digitalis to his stepmother, killing her. He had poisoned his father, his sister, and his school friends. He had been sent to Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility for the criminally insane. He had spent 9 years there. During his time inside, he had studied poisons in the library. He had told the psychiatrists exactly what they wanted to hear. He claimed he was cured of his obsession. In 1971, the doctors at Broadmoor deemed him safe and released him into the public. They simply let him go. And he went straight to a library, refreshed his knowledge on thallium, and got a job at John Hadlin Laboratories. The suspicion at the factory finally reached a breaking point. Graham's arrogant question to the doctor about thallium raised a red flag. Management contacted the police, not necessarily suspecting murder, but suspicious of the strange young man in the storeroom. Police dug into his background and were horrified to discover who he really was. They arrived at the factory and arrested Graham Young. When they searched his small rented room, they found a literal laboratory of death. He had vials of thallium, he had antimony, he had aconitine. But the most chilling piece of evidence was his diary. Graham Young had treated his co-workers like lab rats. In his diary, he had kept a meticulous scientific record of the poisoning. Bob Eagle, dose administered. Signs of paralysis. Fred Biggs, dose increased. The subject is irritable. Hair loss noted. J, dose reduced. Subject recovering. He didn't hate these people. He didn't have a grudge against Bob Eagle or Fred Biggs. He actually liked them. To him, they were simply subjects in a grand experiment. He wanted to see how much poison a human body could take before it broke. He wanted to play God with their tea. Fred Biggs, the second major victim, died after weeks of agony. The poison had ravaged his system so badly that his skin could not tolerate the touch of a bedsheet. Graham Young was charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. During his trial, he seemed to enjoy the attention. He was cold, calculating, and arrogant. He referred to himself as the world's poisoner. He was convicted in 1972 and sentenced to life in prison. He died in his cell in 1990. The fallout was massive. The British government had to launch a major inquiry into why a known poisoner was released from a mental hospital and allowed to work in a factory without supervision. It changed the laws regarding the monitoring of psychiatric patients. But for the workers at John Hadlin Laboratories, the damage was done. They had to live with the knowledge that the cups of tea they had gratefully accepted, the warm drinks on cold mornings, were weapons. The story of the Teacup Poisoner taps into a primal fear. We trust the social contract of the workplace. We assume that the person making the coffee is just doing a nice thing. Graham Young reminds us that evil doesn't always look like a villain. Sometimes it looks like a polite young man in a suit holding a tray of mugs asking, 1 lump or 2, from the yoga store to the secure lab, from the hospital ward to the factory floor. The lesson is always the same. You never truly know who is clocking in next to you. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please make sure you are subscribed to Midnight Monologues. We have many more stories coming soon. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Do you accept food or drinks from your coworkers? I'm Midnight Monologues. Watch your back and watch your drink.